I remember it was a very important virus and record night. I rarely fought hard grammar at that time. I thought it might have been in the regions, but I felt the need to fight to be who I was. I like the way I look here. I like my hair. As I look at this, I brings back the energy of those days and the go for work signs. How did shit come into the women to take? I think it was the times. We always say the person the rise of the women's movement was part of kind of personification, overtaking our power. The second wave era of feminism, we had an opening in history, and we all ignored it and left our house. We all left the house at the same moment. What were they? What are they thinking? Come on, girl. Oh, it looks very beautiful. Beautiful. All it is. Beautiful women standing up. And the mid-17th photographers asked us if these pictures made her for her book. She stated that the film made difference because some Spanish. She wanted to see if the difference showed. She started with women she knew, artists, writer, activists, and graduates went to be raised in New York and LA. And she found something more comfortable forward, more basic than sexual identity. She captures women at moments and defeated them to be who they are. These women represent this 1 hour when women take responsibility and it's really personal, it's very personal, it's very personal with a consistent reason the fear and expresses themselves and they were not afraid. Did you ask them pose and honor? No, I just wanted to get as much career as possible. I just wanted to be in the innocence of their core. 40 years later, medicine and the culture, and now, as women look back at us eyes, charming is there. Whenever I take a picture of myself, I never look how, but this picture looks more like myself than most do, except for the skirt. It's interesting this shot here because I didn't like the programs. It was a hard time. I was working in my studio and just trying to stay in the moment. I always made a dark room where I lived because I think as a mother I had to be there. Not that I was that great, don't get me wrong, you know? I am, but that is something that I had to do, and my earliest children were at the point were getting into their teens, and it was very hard. But now I love that picture because I look a bit kind of like it because I was beautiful and beauty with that camaraderie. We're just two red girls from Little Rock. When I was 14, I was We were watching a movie one night, and it was Miss and Martha genres. A crowd called Edgar's grow old. Our middle-aged couple wife was way hot. Husband, come on, let's go. I don't know, I was driving the singing, kept looking back watching the screen. I come and they don't have talent anyway. He said that they don't need it. And that always helps for me. 3.5 years of our relationship, I felt important kicking up feminism, even though I don't know I was pregnant. When I became, I was teaching a full coverage role and had published 2 books of feminist third. I asked to teach a slightly different hour because I saw when I was getting sleepy and the Divino University. He said, well, I have to make for some water. I said, are you carrying me? That was a moment. That I was a young, when I was in college, I was philosophy minor, and I took a class and I was raised my hand to ask a question, and the male professor was calling me. And the car and the skies, they're not calling on me because I'm a girl. I knew that, but it was impossible to talk about. If I tried to raise it, people would say, what is this? And the suffrages and the suffrages, oh, there is no way there is trouble. Of course, I didn't want it to be just this woman, the first advance. They work free when they feel like them is contagion. Do you? I whispering when someone asked me I'm famous. That is a trick question. Do some of my friends with a number of famous that much. We tend to more respectful. We're fighting for the John card. We're fighting acre pay. We're fighting a moment on screen. With the necessary rule around the word feminist. In fact, over my friends are often feminist is man because it makes us cool. I remember working into FedEx and I was being helped by a man who was just there to help the customers, and we got in conversation somehow about gender issues somehow. And he asked me if I identify as feminist, and I said yes. And he just looked at me. I was a queen monster. I heard and affirmed that I had him. He was repulsed. Repulsed. My body, my choice. Equal rights to have dream to have viewers face of myths. I've never seen a difference with community with myths because passable to cast a definition in the dictionary. It was when the passable is the station with the sex. I mean, I didn't cast a moment. Every time you talk about feminism, you somehow arrive at some human beings or one of the human being is not very like. Why is my submissive right superior? However, show our anger Why is convenience not feminism? Not association even daily life does not have feminist subtext. Superstructure implication and one is conscious and aware then to rest is sense of this and the fast. This is a request of people of millennium in the bring air drinking any kind of child. I mean a health country like a individual picture per picture. I whisper whistling. I was sorry to realize I was never running. I had a lot of imagination, and there were actors an hour. I climbed to the top. I couldn't myself reading an army of silently like a John Arc that was on my imagining of myself. Oh, I was the ranger, the masked band of commissar people. Sometimes I wanted to be turned to always active and masquerade. Basically, was Susie homemaker. For me, being a girl, being a woman with Zion, I wanted to rap and wanted to power and wanted to succeed. You were a boy. I really wanted to illustrate very badly. And my father then got them for me. Thinking back, when I was school, I remember inviting a boy from my class very young, and my mother said, "You have to let him win again, goes on wind." I remember thinking that was very strange and during a few fear and all, and I'm not gonna follow that at all. Most girls were five or six before properly settled. And as one specter of womanhood begins to remain polarized, you have to stop angry. You have to be a good girl. All your life, people are to be a good girl impression. No, you're not. Naturally good. It's very nice. The rivers of power to being power, female, I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but you can say that this imagine it's masculine. 14 citizens are raising actually everything. Everything shifted. I was consistent, comfortable, and comfortable, aware other people thought of me. Courage, of course, that was like a voice out of the X in word. In some sense, before the time it was more of portrait as a girl is to like watch by two stuff. Suddenly it became aware that you loving the person of your male and requiring that it was like really hard. I was raised person loved to wear wings, secretish housework. My parents were very courageous for women. For a moment of my generation, none of these patients, I was very, very bothered. My father ordered me, he encouraged me, he taught me, he played games with me, he trained me on logic and behaviors, and he taught me that I could trust a man. My father was a writer organizer. He worked in the post office, but his passion was change, making a better world. And he was back in my backwards in this course in 50s. The people visited my house when I was 6 years old. My father was hard as his were fired from the post office and hounded the labor union. And he went through a slow physical and emotional decline. He died when I was 13. Here I was faced with the fact that the world world was telling me. My father was a terrible person. But that was not my experience. My experience with my father is a wonderful person. And at 13, I had to make a choice between whether I would believe words said or whether I would live my own experience. I come from a military family where travel with my father. My first memories at the hospital in Japan, where I had to, they would take for a walk all the kids down this big corner. And at the end, people left from bombing the atom bomb, getting treatment. I still remember those people. And that car, my whole life, never could understand how people could love each other. Then with the child, that was excessive thunder. You were not chopped down with the tyrant, dagger, destiny, appearances of the animal. You want to talk, you want to write. This is the running dance. For our TC, the whole picture of the decimated site, the picture of Charlie's ground, and the Jackers came. One very swirling epic moment was in grad school. Crushing your backpack hiding under desk and overhead this size going. There was some atmosphere, but I certainly idea this is doesn't make me water as was a civil movement. I often felt with the point I went to poetry. Oh yeah, conceptual artist. What does that mean? Conceptual artist. A Superman. A Jordan. A mom and dad. Mom and dad. Uh, 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 uh. As already been not sure that I aggressive in some situations, but I support not aggressive. Something very essential but very different in Douglas about women. Look around and see mom who's picking up the guns to the most part is strict and and my own experience into my online women tend to be the pick master. The with you guys, your brothers don't catch other okay? I said no, they don't like instruments for the family lover. For other mothers of asking you, I think you can big statement look to women that was towards that very very scared at understanding networking that has to work. I think this not big storyline, you know, that but it's very and it can't anything with it affecting us as I was born and raised in Berlin. I was in my city was from small and British girl. I think it really has had a big impact in my life. See the world. I lived across the way from us. And before we could eat it, my mother would say my sister and I, you go take food most miserable. Said my mommy, but hungry mommy, we can't eat and take a no before you eat. You take the food over to I can't go over with it. Another was another that I realized the lessons she was teaching us and terms looking out for others that have really of sharing the wisdom we had. Immigrating from the village, working with the most different experience in my life. We're living with my aunt Murmur Brooklyn, conservative immediately, I think about 2 weeks after arriving from Bourbon, railroad picket lines, because there was a huge this where black people were protesting, in fact, for the medical Brooklyn, downstairs medical center, and there were black people. We would take a paperback their lunch, we would send them blockers in my truck, and there's a house I spent summers this was my entrance from the United States. My mother was a witch, my father was an atheist, and from these two sources, my father was the one who recognized me. And when I was 3 months old, right away said Christian. My mother was side, my grandma and mother's were the sister wanted to do that because that was like Catholic thing to do. And father said, no, no, don't do that when it corrupts her and reasons. My father says about me, this is a reason. You know that where I finished right in there. The balmy weather and the wonderful smells that the air got from blooming flowers, the gemmas and the orange trees. And the garden is very, very feelable and visible. I didn't cover anywhere else but here. This really became activism. It became spiritual political activism. And to me, same, opposition weapon when related in religion. From childhood little things like this is conference rising. We say, hey, church is a real representing of human beings. You better start changing that mess up. You say that they got really woman and one remains. A sentence is one of his and if she says to me, she's gonna be toast. And there I am. There than I am now. My mom started Kirk Center. She was the first person to hire African American Life magazine. Gordon Parks is photographer and then filmmaker. Alan Lewis were upset came. My mother recanted that his mother said, if you don't hire him, I quit. My mother was extremely independent. It was a hard instant feeling that I deserved equality, that I deserved to be paid the same as men, have same opportunities as an actor, as a painter. I became a yoga teacher at a time where they run a band, so she taught me how to just go for what take the answer. I was being progress somewhere outside worker cover, so I was a slightly messy new worker, and as worker. A quarter so that I had surgeon. I became a that project, Barnes schools, college school. I didn't current this for time somewhere else, runs the charge. I just took charge to hold my own with Arlen, with Bruce. I was so young, not, I was an intrusion. It's some pineapple and current. I went had to, girls inside I don't know where this, came from exactly. My mother is a very force. She has a very vision for what it was to be a fully illiterate person in the world. When rather she, I think, when can put left side because we're not more comprehensive than just for into this force about falling in love, forgive her for love. She was very afraid if my last year's college showed this radar. I had a freezer what she couldn't do. I had a mother who was incredible. Recent discourse was very famous. Something that says her life was as famous as women have to follow. She very listen. I believe that to that. Even like this wrong, youngness, fun, and free, tight, jumped man. This should have these pretty sculpted ideas. Women should be. The more the my recipes from his partner from the loud, the louder it got, and I remember running to fit in with the group. And one day I went up the little girls, touched me, made you a little bit bigger. I was just let you know you can hang out with us if lose a little bit of weight. I remember kind of feeling like resistance to that, but feeling okay. That's something I need to fit in. But I knew that it was about my size. I remember I went out to my mind, asking about ways and the correct position to lose weight. Mom says essentially anybody that does not see how prominent beautiful you are, and does not value influence of you are essentially does not deserve to share space with me. And that is written early on. And then again, black women. Is my mom? Yeah. What is it like being here with your daughter? It's Ruby Grace was in 1999 with my mother at the button. She's no longer here with the prisoner. It's just really nice to be here with my daughter, but it's very sad and the same. It's a real shame that I believed or not surpassed the era. Being was president, I cried last year. Come it's 2017. I'm done. I want to be done final with Can. Thank you, sweetie. If I'm gonna be homework the rest of my life, I will never do it. So do I. What can I teach you and homework classes and right there? After you get married, we have to bring demonstration into homemaking. Because I was a brother who was 15 years younger, I brought demonstration how to diaper a baby, and I got an A. One of the essays taught the home egg was how to cook. I got an A now. Also taught us how to wash dishes. The gave a chart to the person last. It was we take it, our guards to take it. It is a picture of this book. Look, I love this picture and anime. And here I am on my 1970 Mercedes with a C-Hub. Was thrown out on high school for absentee slips, and I never went back. The summer I went to San Francisco, and that's when I turned into an adult. And that's not the John, because the journey very trainer. And I just fell madly in love with the child character player. When we had the father came from Los Angeles, John just begged him to let him to New York. And my father said, she hasn't had very much high school. And John said, girl, I teach her everything she has to know. And my father, yeah, I bet you will. I was working with Drummond Street in my poncho, and the resonance of the outfit, a kind of a winter coat. I was professionally making very little money. I was a male-dominated academic environment. Other women my age have said English is different from women. I didn't have any women professor. I was not rival women, but friend has from high school that I forwarded through college, so I was running the spending my life with that no makeup look, no experience sexual, and then recorded with another experience gratification. Intimate someone who was like saying with courage. I was actually my professor. I was after with him. And he showed me what it's about. My God, it can happen a very big thing. When I met other Korean, his real name, we talked about Dawson and Proust. We found books, alphabets. He promised life, adventure, and travel, and I was resting for that. He was first man I slept with. Nice Jericho, supposed to the right. First man you sleep with. So I brought him home. I brought him home to impress my family. My family was one reason, what car, what country, no family, and in retrospect, been more cool, a more tiring. I believed that I would just met him back. He never told me that his father three wives and 21 children. Didn't mention that. This got 3 years inside. He didn't tell me I was with my mother-in-law. When we land, officially airport, Smith says, Madam, we need your passport now as my American passport. And he says, well, it's just a formality, it's to your home. I never saw it again, and instead became the property of a large, wealthy, prominent family and the citizens of the country. From that moment when I became a firebrand feminist, foreign market with a race with my eye on women's fate globally. Back to London to designer headmakers, not New Yorker. New York, Harvard skirt, and see. A few faint answered to right and straight line. Don't anything sure didn't work at all. I had several work. Actually was in hospital for periods of time, and what they had to the hospital really to retraining yet to go back what she was doing before, be good girl, to housewife. I was in college, I was in kind West Grace, and I remember my father, she's gonna get married anyway, I just married. And that sister rings my ears. I felt that I had something else to do other than just get married and be married to somebody. during and during has been through medical school, and I spent a lot of time alone. I was getting more and more depressed, and I kind of came to standing in our bedroom with a blanket over my head, said to myself, "Is this not me? I can't live like this. I have to do something." One particular weekend, there was when they say family picnics. The earnings did something like that for family. As dynamic is there, I am hovering towards my father. That was the start that would bring me to salvation. I was not paying attention to anybody. I rather was kind of stuff. My mother was running for looking desperate. I could kid herself for 5 months later. I remember taking a hot bottle of pills, upset relationship, and feeling, sort of rushing my phone public purgatory ideas, and a better thing said the mother was right. She don't give it up for love. Miss no love is all love. People have asked me how women and my wife wrote first book. I had run because I needed $1 million from American psychiatrists as the seed women very badly treated. Prophets came calling. I was consumed by the ideas in this book. It's never been out of print through many editions. Feminists became their therapists. Women patients signed themselves in mental hospitals. Were taught me they left marriages. They began to think Amazons, they say, because it's Amazon myth, and it's changed by 10%, maybe by 50%. Enough for me. In Chicago, it's where I got birth to my two little boys. After the second win, I was so that it was a hundred students, and I'm just the church because I had to have community somewhere, and there was Walter Taylor, like campus, and I told him, ask them using contrast now, and he said it was I can't forgive it, and I just thought about it a moment and meant that. It said, Father Taylor, you father of nothing. You have not having any children. I just laid down my anger about how dare you telling a woman and it woke me up, working with the babies. We must control our past tender lives. If we have children, then spend what is budget done. It's important to understand that you have to have the child. There were no options, and so when I was off to my own, so from first husband, literally, I made a lot of mistakes. But I had no money. I got two offers in Mexico when here where I was died with a balloon of something that they put inside of me, but you were that desperate. Is that before I was lager? Or then before I was lager. I wanted better that take that on. Birth control was very, very important to me. I want to experience. What was that? I got pregnant from boyfriend who knows about make a love, but didn't know that you put it's just that pregnancy sexy. 7. Before it was rigor. Just word mouth, Brown's psychologist. I cut bright. I told her what to say. They kind of kept with psycho. Kill yourself. I said I kill myself, okay. I wanted to end nothing. I should said I should. I woke up 2 days later with a bit in my arm, 2 days straight. Some other loud, probably, because I went to regular hospital where they have pressure. This is live extra of forwards as when the requested the session runs out. Now it's a past severe was shut down the worst taxes. Our body, lives, our lives, our right to decide. And that's what's scary about raising this right that we have, because women will do away. It's the only property. Women to be believed should control their own bodies. Men tell the right wingers they don't want women's freedom. And they basically thinking about sperm. Will you help me do the dishes? How do the dishes? Did you do your dishes as much as my? Those you drive a cook. After decades of professional practice in Southern California, I got sick that's trying to act like a man, paint like a man, not be myself as a woman. The women's movement was just starting. Some rarely conventionalists come in New York, and of course, it's speaking everything I'm feeling, like I was getting really passes off. Turkey could be a moment churches too, watching the men get like moved along, choo, trying to success and everything. Sanger instead of moving forward. Okay, I have shown nothing would happen, said anything. You couldn't really talk at the time, but sexism. I decided to start speaking out, and I decided to create a feminist art of practice. If I have young women younger than me, I was only 30, young women learn how to become professional artists without having discounts from their influence as women, maybe I can find my way back to my own voice. Men were having the experience of seeing our point of view. They were becoming an audience for the female gaze in the same way women have been the audience of female gaze for centuries. Meeting just Chicago turned my life. Another thing has just happened for me. The end of the first year of graduate school had competition. First place was in dollars, and they gave me first place and the ribbon, and they gave me $500, and they gave two men who were second place from the races. I was like, well, how can you do that? Well, they weren't as good as yours, but they were good as each other's. So I told that story. She says, nothing you can never do. isn't gonna make you one of those boys. I became less interested in praise, some words of caring and knowledge. Most interested I can make a contribution, and that forbid me. I was sitting in the word for a film handed the trophies to each director, and they got to me handed to my actor, who is a man. And then after that, they actually actor onto the backdrop to take good pictures. I don't remember saying that now I have to push on the backdrop to get in the picture, and I felt really stupid making big deal out of it. But it was big deal, I was a big director. If a man saying something career success, that's something that's instead of my first reaction, I kind of like laughing up, not like a compliment, it's just a reflex. Afterwards, I've examined I was not a friend, that was a reference. Really, it's back in my data. Like, are you okay? I return later, but like, how's you feeling? So, of course, I had a heart movement and there's a certain came reading a Murmur went on. I just suddenly sensed a relief that what I had suffered since red alone. Somehow I realized it's not my problem, but it's a social problem. I just remember being in bed, like, because I slept very well, but I get the ideas when I tossing and remember thinking about it. It was the education of the girl child. When the current education told us all possible, no remains possibility, world will be a better place. In a sense, I feel more like a humanist. I think that if there's an advance in the human race, that also helps you have human race. I was teaching in college. It was a lot of organizing among students of color, the factor of color, against reasons and softer things. We were working very, very few mothers organizing the Caesarean special program to have been poor and malnourished students. Murmur was a problem, including the fact women needed childcare was not. We volunteered the Women's Center, and the space in the Women's Center was funded by the men who were considered themselves, these academic habits like why are you going and all the separate yourselves from black community by going into Women's Center because that's been right. That's all right. So what? You better care. The representation is to make that fight. That says, yes, we are anti-racist when we are women. And as black women, silence their gender experience. For the sake of understanding reason, you have to look at race. We can't talk about those guys after the church. My mechanisms will work. And look at the next sentence, it says. Queen is the mother of the Earthbreaker, limited like Gender is regionless Kirk. It's our duty by Turk. It is our duty with wind like. How much can we make conference and how much we can whose will work? As a black woman is was difficult to identify families because it's our communities Their ideas once you announced that your feminists you're against the black man. And it's just not true. And really, the way the feminist genre are still being against an anti-man. Instead, the feminist complex of being women, there is maybe a difference from an culture. It was very different from the class women. Some stronger, some smart people are mass union women. We were sisters, yes, sister which is powerful. The sister came from very different families, and that to be Congress. The aha moment in discovering that I was a lesbian, that this was a difference you have not expected. And this was as this far as this friend. Listen to me. I have loved you the way they said. There's always been something wrong. Always I just wrong can remember. But I never knew this was an happiness. Stop immediately. Stop your crazy talk. This was bad. This was bad. I will feel closer to my girlfriends than they felt towards me, and I didn't know that. I remember one night I got a Harley free pass. Reckon free pass during this. Women's group. And I checked address. Actually, I think I was lesbian. And I couldn't say word. I went to, I just not say the word. I remember going to that consideration group, being patriotic, sitting across the leg and question every time, figure out what this mean. And they talked, they just talk of feelings. Oh, they're just humans. I'm thinking I might have been planning for the first time Broadway's moment that was in 1977. Every time I see either sign of the sexual trend, I have not seen the man work ever the says I wanted doing here alone. My brother and her brother again, his brother probably is treated less kindly than I was. Because it was simultaneously its bodies and vivities were very rough times. Gender wise, a man and a tomboy, it was something some disturbs. You know, brother, the resters and tomboys should be according to standards, and he paid a pay price for it too. I don't really identify being aware of his own early life, but I was always aware to the difference relationship with men, and they did very well for me. That's really like it's really crushed. Once I was a woman, it characterized me, but I never felt that something was wrong with me for it. There I am in my little loft apartment. And I mean just 2 feet across from a woman who is completely naked, and I can see that I'm naked too, but I don't actually see that when I look at the picture. I see my intentions with the violin. I see the picture in the moment. The woman's naked body was no longer reserved to pornography, but the body was a source of part of the health. Her body was to be celebrated and to be enjoyed. I loved being nude. I think that women should be proud of their bodies no matter what they look like. Back then you could be all this short and scared, take my identity, nothing of it. I couldn't believe it when the weapon and there you were hanging upside down. Almost not, almost the very basically a man. I was nothing except the tightest covering my teeth and my pussy. That's our pressure. So I sat upside the writing. You're a sock try, right? And pretty interesting, especially given the fact that I had to be naked. But the brilliant and girl's imagination of what it is could. To be really funny way to be into maybe the rest of the things I really wanted to say no. I was only 10 years no in complete sentence. I have no interest in becoming part of musical group. I couldn't think anything related to us. But he said, yeah, you were going to be in your group. I said, but I can't sing. He said, you sing just fine. And that was that. John and I just read and started California Dream. When we started singing with Cass and Danny, we sang pulling out the pieces of material we had. I was having a lot of fun, making a lot of money. I had equal pay. I had fame. I was very innocent. Actually, I was fired from the Murmur's the Puppers because I was having a relationship outside of my marriage, and he was too. But you know, I never thought that he could fire me. That was a moment for me when I realized that I was powerless without John. I had started demonstrations because of the victim war. I met many strong women connected to that. Women were installing group together and discusses it. It was like there's a wave, and I'm getting on it. 1907 Women's strike for equality. Early emerged I was more than 50 other some descendants ever are the first time since 1956. Without a resignation, I said the seconds of feminism are born for it. In fact, the readers might being strong with various already bad accomplishments with the per salad. Women were no longer just competing against it for men. Women were now our part of team fighting over women's freedom. Never would imagine we were now sisters. Power of our sisters would such a rush. Anything I said or did made to headline. At first it was believed as a simple social economic for encouraging sexes. Now therefore we are policy, you see. Relationship between the sexes is a political relationship. Join us now. Sisterhood is powerful, join us now. What is the want? Well, for this thing. The moments never reach moment in joke. Current boarding balls bring one only balls. But this is the notion. It is about equal pay, equal opportunity in the job market. We wanted to win over the money, we want to be our body, we want it to be when the right or rights, we wanted to get a bit of special registration, we wanted to get women behind the camera, we wanted to get from a page, we wanted to grow and love to listen to this magazine, when successful, we wanted to win. No dancers, sports according to your work and money, more brothers and sisters. I am no longer accept such a judgment. The group is second. There was a group of 30 women who came to Los Angeles as a result Chicago early rumor when celebrated. 30 women come and join program from the start. We all showed up having paid no school. There were 34 women sitting on the floors of the house. Women were shocked. And, a lot of them were passing paper. Various citizens said, you were paying for the opportunity to do your art and get support for it. You forfeit the opportunity to change the rest of your life. You are paying opportunity to change the world. We didn't have to build that. We couldn't get around that. It did come with them building. The building. Women really benefit from having a place they seem to want it, built and want it strong, powerful, and competent. We will not be equal in this world when our stories told and when the stories were preserved, our stories recognized until anti-existence to pass on our culture, because that was nutrition do. 1907 has chosen Women's Year. Era, there's a better way. Never before in the world, best women's missing. Its number in the paper in the long bench perfect. Celebrate womanhood. Celebrate democracy. Celebrate woman power. There is time we make a moment and when we share a Corey Gretel from market. Thank you very much. Always part of the first congressional ceremonies as women held yours in 19 Women of color get headache and run late. We felt that the concerns of mothers' welfare party stories in color wasn't really getting a reckon. I got the floor to raise the resolution of pressing first starting black American working women. My mic was shut off. We were told not to raise these issues because if we did, it was our choice. We should suffer choice right to opportunity. We are supported. We were saying no, you can't do that on our backs. Women go into hospital, they are sterilized. How did her office give a mouth about that? We did ask that we not be sacred. Environment when our environment to be for the medicine of men, not only encouraging and ever affecting us. It's all of it the same for all women. In the line listening to the voice of the women of color and telling us that we have got to put our concerns and issues on the silence for the great good. That's part of what happened there. Unfortunately, in Madden, some separately. Yeah, we can have nothing to do with the river. Then the black women in sex and conversation. If we can't talk about written black spaces or technical gender, within women's spaces written by your race. You are boss, you equally every day when you wake up. What then do you do? There was another perch because in A, look at the abolitionist movement and look at civil rights movement. So that of course white women were there, and because they were considered property. Of course not, it's very important concept. It's expressing women and making them like to be slaves. How many women that harm ours? All women are slaves. One of my best friends worked as female office workers. Over the she told stories about that happened down when the tourists in Roger, especially in the office, insurance companies, banks. We went to conferences over the secretaries and went around the record stories recording the exact same. The animal the finest to the bus. Oh yeah. And that became the movie. Darley was the songs and the movie's secretaries. What is the biggest money market that year? What is one of the most stressful, glorious experiences of my life? I knew about sexism, but I didn't think about it that much. And then as soon as I can consider it, I started noticing everywhere, more and more. I'm not a Christian person by nature, since I'm wanting to purchase. It's taken a lot of work emotionally now. I've exercised my soul to that I my natural have. So being able to speak of myself rather relaxed to me or be absurd. Maybe it's in the room, that was things that went wrong the hard way. Because I really care about becoming a filmmaker. Filmmaker. What a film. The figurine was something that my parents had set up for me to have when I was being a housewife. and raising children, and would have something for myself. I gradually realized and then kept realizing that it wasn't safe. The environment has been myself at the beginning, and I love it. I have a career now. I have this amazing life. Amazing life. And the picture of me is me beginning to listen to be my inner voice. When John and I got everything, never waiting, checking my life, clients and bank accounts, never received and charged and suffered, never received any army money. I had to fight for my money that I had really none. I was going to have to take care of myself, of my life. I came to this moment where I said never again, and this will never happen to me again, and it never did. There was a time that I did a number of pieces that I would call up, but I felt that the artist world was the state problem to be kind of mirror, so that I now I rather of the kind. You can't think of art, and the paper just seemed as praise. People seemed to imply that I had good fortune for friends that mentioned with my aunt. And I just love paper. I love so much. Love this paper. Love math and utterly generous. I love God's countries in my life. I think I will never forget that that was the right life live. So when the trouble started happening in Syria, I was undone. I was really just sobbing. And this happened with characterizing all the difference in the word. I think that when you are something that you love, it's just a rock in the full, right, full, rather loud. And so when you're doing something that you're really sharing with human beings, it's a benefit. There is lots this is audience never underestimate the audience and what can be bad things. I personally found that in the work I did a script in which Carly with Muhammad Learning, who was a countryman. Most of the people in the US is a cat who was selling computers and custom and for 7 years for as fraternity and that very hard thing. I watch people looking at this statue with a camera that's connected New York up to West America. It's the people who came up and made eye contact with this the later breaker and went, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I love TV. I love see how can push interesting and visible and became think that remember my lose is a bit of them and to be free that's my band goes and There is an incurious mechanism or mechanism talked about since they were their sources of positions. They were always trying to women's work, actors committed, and they did in fact make as a success as long as working was small. Look at this garbage. Now we have this three-dimensional story 9 women's vaginary their gender separated whole room in order to display weird sexual art. 36 and sounded 539 never the person that in defense of female vagina do that trouble this because it's not important during the period then dinner party was being verified. For the first time I visited my father's grave was in Chicago. And told him he had told me a lie, told me cut my savage beloved. We're not Judy Chicago. And in the recent show in Spain, why not Judy Chicago? The curious is premise is that my career can be understood around two concepts, deficit and disobedient. That is young women, and deficit information on women's history, women's arts, women's experience in this culture are like wanted to change that. But in order to change that, I had to become disobedient. And he's right, I've been a very woman. If there is one message that echoes first from this conference, let it be that human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights once and for all. The feminism has a future in this visual. It has seized the dimensions of the world. Let your head after the women's sunset, you have women under dire death threats who are strangers there when they are discovering against women in school in a country because you're women. Shot because you were going to school. Not being a woman, trying to practice your identity, because God you cared. The extremists were and they are afraid of book and pen. The power of education frightens them. They are afraid of women. The power of voice of women frightens them. Because they were or they are afraid of change and the equality that they will bring into our society. Disorders. It's like an audacity. I get it. I get it. As I have gotten older, I have come back to where, as a busy girl, had climbed the top of the oak tree, braided our hair, and knew who the sound of anything, and never told a lie. That part of a lot of girls goes way subterranean. It's not that it doesn't get lost, it goes underground. And the goal of our lives is to bring her back up. I try not to focus feminism as only move the world a little way, because I see in the next generation already the men I know who were raised by single mothers and different men, the young people who don't care that race is so many and different people, and we contribute to that. And the feminist movement in universe can correct a good thing. I will refer to the often the jury every kind of, you know, prejudice and the stereotype is the sort of belief that something that higher could be. It's weekend, it's weekend. And then the nice spring nice, and then the way things are, what are nothing, we're wearing crosses, everything saying this is a women issue and then it's environment issue. We can't do that anymore because that's there again. It's Christians higher than preacher. Women are rape, women are jealous, women are even in this in the girl country and encouragement in the stage. There's the hard things about being a woman. There's need a feminist movement. I must have feminist movement. Arabs came from the fact there was a women's movement. It's how are we moving forward, keeping our art values are so that we better find our love each other, we need each other, because we are all on this present in trouble right now.